Welcome back into NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey. Took last week off due to the birth of my son, but we're back now here on NFL Daily discussing all the latest around the National Football League. Probably the biggest news of the day that broke earlier this afternoon. Jaxson Dart is taking over as the Giants starting quarterback. Russell Wilson didn't play well in week 1. Lit up a bad Cowboys defense in week 2, and then didn't play well in week 3, and the Giants already pulling the ripcord and sending in the first-round pick out of Ole Miss. Are the Giants right to start Jaxson Dart? This is the pinned poll, by the way, on today's show. Y for yes, N for no. 81% of the early voters, appreciate you guys being the diehards here, are voting yes, 18% voting no. I think the answer is yes. That's not to say that it's going to work, but if you're Russell Wilson, you can't – I don't think he got hit. You can't throw it away on 4th and goal. Like, what are you doing? I don't think he looked confident. I don't think he looked comfortable. It's the third time that the team's like, yeah, this is not going to work with Russ. It's just – it's tough with your – he did it against the Cowboys. Like, honestly, just tossed that game out the window. But, like, it's tough to be an undersized QB, and you're just like – and you used to be so good at the chaos stuff and bouncing around, making plays, and you just don't have that anymore. I think it is I think it's the right move, but I don't know if it's going to pan out. I do get a little bit worried that it's some Sam Howell Commanders vibes where Ron Rivera was just like propping up Sam Howell the entire time. Like, he's so good, but I'm like, yeah, that's how he saves his job, as if Sam Howell is good. That's what this move is by Brian Dable, to save his job and showcase what Jaxson Dart is able to do. There was no right time to play Jaxson Dart. Like, the schedule is a gauntlet no matter what. Like, you were always going to have, if it wasn't the first game, the second game was going to be super challenging defensively. So I think just like had to do something kind of mode, and Dart's the right option. It doesn't mean it's going to work, but it was the time to do that. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it is good to be right. Prize Picks is simple to play. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. You get your picks right, you could cash in. It is the best way to get action on sports in more than 40-plus states, including California, Georgia, and Texas. My boy Jack Lauderay nailed his Monday Night Football slate. This is what he's got for Sunday. Aaron Rodgers, more than 202.5. That's it. Passing yards. TJ Hawkinson, more than 35.5 receiving yards. And your max discount, put it in your lineup. Otherwise, I honestly don't know what you're doing. Jalen Hurts, more than a half passing yard. That's the no-brainer. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. As we'll do every Tuesday, we'll discuss the next upcoming game for the NFL. That is Thursday Night Football, Cardinals and the Seahawks. Both of these teams, I think, are thinking, like, can we make the playoffs this year? Can we find a way to make that happen? We're both 2-1. Sam Darnold, I think, not great in week 1, but has mostly been pretty solid since then. I think, especially last week, it felt like a strong showing against a bad Saints team. A hyper-efficient showing out of Sam Darnold. Was just 14 of 18, 218 yards, but 2 scores and no turnovers, and just took care of business pretty easily because the Seahawks defense was so good in that game. Arizona, meanwhile, they coulda, shoulda, woulda won that 49ers game, it felt like. Not a good showing from Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that is certainly worth mentioning there. I don't know. I think Kyler's just kind of playing like who Kyler is at this point. Like, he's not turning the ball over. That's good, but was fine against the Saints. I don't think played that great against Carolina. They did win that game. Was okay at best against San Francisco. I think there are some concerns there. Who they got in this one? NFC West slugfest. C for the Cardinals, S for the Seahawks. I'm gonna go Seattle. Eric Simmons says C. Chris Romero. Rico Dowdle Worshipper says S. Michael says S. Selly says S. Lore says S. Caesar M. Esquire says boring game. Hey, at least it's not what I don't even know if we're going to get this game. At least it's not Titans Jags Thursday Night Football game. I don't know if we get that game this year. I assume we're going to because we get it. Like I swear to God, we get it every single year. Like I'm pulling it up right now because I don't memorize what the Thursday night games are. No, because we're definitely not getting Tennessee because I don't think they have any primetime games this year. We always get like some kind of crappy AFC South matchup every single season on TNF. I guess we don't this year. Looking through them now. They actually are pretty solid games. Oof. You know what's going to be the bad one? Is Jets at Patriots in Week 11. Apologies to Jets and Patriots fans out there, but that one, both those teams are potentially out of the playoff hunt. Also, when we get back-to-back NFC West games, we get Niners, 49ers next Thursday. It's kind of interesting. That should be a good one. Kind of funny. You got maybe the team's fighting for third, and maybe the team's fighting for first in the Niners and the Rams. But maybe more happens there. All right, we'll talk trade candidates on today's show based on an ESPN article. Will the Dolphins trade Tyreek Hill? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. You think the Dolphins end up trading away Tyreek Hill? There's complications in multiple ways on this one. I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins did a fire sale. How that materializes, I don't know. Will the Dolphins trade Tyreek Hill? Y for yes, N for no. Michael says yes. Cosmic Thunder says no. Shelly says no. Marcos Man, Chiefs and Vikings says no. I think there is a universe out there where the Chiefs go trade for Tyreek Hill again, though. They could use him, but I also wonder if that bridge has been burnt along the way. Eric says yes, though. Cobra Kai says Tyreek back to the Chiefs for a third-round pick. I would bet the Dolphins do that right now. But it's kind of a tricky spot for Miami because if you're trading away some of your best players, you're kind of signing the pink slips for your GM and head coach. That's why, it's why you don't see as many in-season trades as maybe you should because you're kind of getting yourself fired in the end. All right, if you have not already, do us a favor and like today's show. We are above the 50% like ratio. I appreciate that. Free, simple, easy to do. Every time you guys watch a video here on Chat Sports, you should like it because it helps us out and continues to help us keep the lights on here at Chat Sports. Coming up on today's show, ESPN's NFL trade candidates, 5 names we'll get into. We will have a mailbag as well. So if you haven't already, get your questions in. I see Cobra Kai, both of your trade ideas. I would love to put those in the mailbag, actually. But if you don't put hashtag NFL before them, producer Aiden can't find them. So get your questions in via hashtag NFL so we can have a fun mailbag. Producer Aiden will get them up on screen as they come in during the mailbag. Or super chat, then you don't have to use hashtag NFL. It gets on no matter what. And we'll talk 2026 NFL draft, specifically the quarterback position. So I only saw a couple of hashtag NFL questions come in earlier. Get them in now. Use hashtag NFL or super chat for the mailbag that's coming up in around 15 minutes. ESPN in a recent article named 5 big-time trade candidates. I'll call them blockbuster because it's fun. We'll break down each one and why. Not all of them I actually think make sense as trade candidates. Some of them certainly do, but not necessarily each and every single one of them. Now, we'll call this our trade deadline coverage, or our lead-up to our NFL trade deadline coverage. If you want more of that, trade news, trade rumors, you had Jarvis Brownlee get traded today from the Titans to the Jets, but that does not fit the blockbuster category. We've got you covered. Hit that like button. That way we can keep doing more NFL trade-focused videos. Let's go to the first name on the list, and that was ESPN naming Tyreek Hill as one of the biggest NFL trade candidates, which, probably isn't a huge surprise to really anybody involved. This has been percolating out there for a while now. It really got going last year when Tyreek Hill said he didn't want to be in Miami anymore, and then kind of changed his mind and backed out on it and said, I'll be better, blah, blah, blah. And he wasn't a captain this year. There are issues, though, with the Tyreek Hill trade. The talent Isn't what it was in 2023, although he is on pace to be better than he was last season. Only a 3-game sample size. The situation in Miami has kind of deteriorated a little bit as well. I think the biggest issue here is not, can he play football? He obviously can. It's the contract. And I ran the updated numbers here. So his cap hit for Miami right now is $27.7 million. New team would pay, Dolphins would save this year $11.8 million. Now the problem is, big picture, this is a rental. Next year, if you traded for Tyreek Hill, you'd owe him $36 million, nothing guaranteed if a new team traded for Tyreek Hill. The Dolphins are currently set to have Tyreek Hill on the books next year for almost $52 million, which is above quarterback cap hit money. This is obviously his last year in Miami, unless he gets an extension, which they're not going to do. And that right now, if the Dolphins trade him, they incur $28.25 million in dead money. That's the dead money no matter what, if they cut him actually next offseason or trade him now. The contract is a complicating factor. How much do you want to give up for a rental of Tyreek Hill, who also is once again dealing with more off-the-field drama, and you can pretty much set your watch to it. It's going to happen at some point for Tyreek Hill. That's who he is. It's happened so many times. I don't know if a team wants to go trade for Tyreek Hill and risk a suspension or more off-the-field issues rearing their ugly head. It just kind of puts him in this weird middle ground of like, I think the Dolphins could have some interest to keep losing games, but can they find the right partner and get the right value back? So predictions. Will the Dolphins end up trading away Tyreek Hill? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know at the pinned comment of today's show. No surprise who the second name on the list is. That is Kirk Cousins of the Atlanta Falcons. Again, the contract's kind of an issue for a lot of these players. Lost his starting job last year with the Falcons. He wasn't playing well. He kind of started off okay, and I think the mobility kind of began to decline as well. He was off to a great start in 2020. He low-key would have been in that MVP conversation had it continued. It probably would have been Allen, Lamar, Dak, and Kirk in that year for the MVP conversation, but got hurt, wasn't the same. Did get to play briefly in Week 3 as part of the Falcons' disaster class against the Panthers. 5 of 7, 29 yards, and nothing to learn about that particular performance from Kirk Cousins. The contract here, also looming oh so large. $40 million cap hit. That's what the Falcons are paying him. The new team would owe him, this is true for Tyreek Hill too, the prorated figure. So you're going to not pay him 3 game checks if you traded for him right now. So it's not quite the full 27.5, call it 23, 22, round down a little bit. But there's also $10 million in guaranteed money next year for Cousins and the Falcons. That's a lot of money to pay for a guy that you're kind of treating as a rental who you don't know how good it's going to be. The Falcons, I think they would trade Kirk Cousins. But does anyone really want to eat that hefty contract? I am not so sure. I think that goes for the Falcons, but they eat it. If they were going to eat the money, they could have traded them all already. But beyond that, it's murky at this point. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it is good to be right. It is simple to play. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. You get those picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. They offer Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. My guy, producer Jack Lauderay, got his Monday night Prize Picks slate right. This is what he cooked up for Sunday. Aaron Rodgers, more than 22.5 passing yards. TJ Hawkinson, 35.5 receiving yards. Jalen Hurts, more than a half passing yard. That is your max discount. Put it in your lineup, or else, frankly, I'm just going to have to say you don't know ball. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS with code CLNS. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Next up, another Dolphin, Jaelan Phillips, the edge rusher, who I think this one makes a lot of sense. Just where the Dolphins are at as a franchise and what Jaelan Phillips' future looks like, frankly, overall. Injuries are a huge issue. He's played 12 games combined in 2024, 2023. He was really good, though, in 2023. The breakout was coming. Been pretty quiet so far this year. Then again, the Dolphins haven't been good, so it's a little bit tough to get quality pass rush chances when you're down a lot. Jaelan Phillips' 2025 fifth-year option of $13.25 million is fully guaranteed. That's an issue for teams. Again, it's the prorated figure, so it's not quite 13. Call it 11 right now, or 11 in 2 weeks maybe. That's a lot. Would the Dolphins eat some of it? I don't know. You do it in November 1st. It's a little bit less. It kind of gets cut down closer to 7. Maybe that's doable. Maybe it's not. The money could be an issue. But this is such a logical trade candidate because the Dolphins haven't paid him yet. Unlike so many of their other guys, like this is a much better setup for the Dolphins to ship off a player, get assets back. The Dolphins are exactly where you do not want to be as a franchise. They are leveraged with their contracts. They've paid a lot of guys. They're expensive. They're struggling, and they're old. That's the worst spot to be in the NFL. Now, if you want all the latest news, rumors, trade ideas, everything else on the NFL, you've come to the right spot. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Travis Etienne is on this list. And I'll make note, ESPN did publish this before the Week 3 games. So things changed, I guess. But they did publish this after the Jags traded away Tank Bigsby. I have been very impressed by Etienne. This is the best version of Travis Etienne I think we've seen. A lot better than the guy that we saw in 2023, we saw in 2022. Maybe it was the coaching change. Maybe the schematic changes have benefited Jacksonville, who's 2-1, fighting for a playoff spot early on in the season. Not that expensive. You're going to average almost 6 yards a carry, 6.14. Now it becomes palatable, the prorated figure, of course, as opposed to, do you want to pay that for 4 yards per carry? No, but for 6? Yeah, you're much more interested there. But the Jags already traded away Tank Bigsby, so I don't know why they'd move Travis Etienne. I'm a big believer in Bashal Tutin long term. I like LaQuint Allen as a third down kind of blocking, pass catching back, but I don't think now is the time to do that. Name a player who you think ends up getting traded. Drop that player name for me in the comments section of today's show. What player do you think ends up getting moved? Romeo Doubs is next up here. That is the Packers wide receiver. Look, I have big thoughts on this one, but these are the 5 names that ESPN mentioned as potential trade candidates. Who is most likely to be traded? TH for Tyreek Hill, KC for Kirk Cousins, TE for Travis Etienne, JP for Jaelan Phillips, RD for Romeo Doubs. Who is most likely to get traded this NFL pre-trade deadline timeline? Romeo Doubs had the weird stuff last year where he was like unhappy with his status and like wanted to be aboard. Like it was weird. Like he wasn't happy with his playing time and kind of got like sent home, and like they actually kind of like figured things out afterward. He's cheap. 3.58 cap hit for the Packers. The cash owed, which is what the prorated figure new team would owe, and the Packers would save is around a little over $3 million, something along those lines. But why would the Packers do this? Romeo Doubs is a starter for them. He's not a star. I'm waiting on the Matthew Golden breakout game. History this year is going to come against the Cowboys, but the Packers are in win now mode. Why would they trade away a starting receiver? Even if it's about like getting assets back. Who cares about assets with the micro trade? You're trying to win a Super Bowl. I don't think that makes any sense unless Doubs like tries to force his way out of Green Bay for some unknown reason. It is mailbag time here on NFL Daily. Saw a couple more in there. Keep those coming. If you have questions, got to use hashtag NFL or skip the line altogether via Super Chat. College football news that is adjacent to the NFL. We'll talk about it during our NFL draft segment here. Bad news for Oklahoma. John Mateer suffered a right hand injury and is going to miss some game action. Timeline of how long he's going to be out is pretty much unknown, but that is a brutal blow to his Heisman hopes, to Oklahoma football in general. They're about to enter a gauntlet of a season. They're going to have to lean on Michael Hawkins, who isn't as good as John Mateer. So big-time blow there for the Sooners, and I think very much has some NFL relevance conversation as well. Let me double-check how many years John Mateer's got left. I think it's one more year of eligibility after this season. If this damn computer would stop freaking out. Go to Oklahoma's website, and it just breaks down on me. Thanks, Sam. I'm just going to blame Sam. It's probably Sam's fault. So, again, get your questions in, #NFL, or skip the line altogether via Super Chat. Free, simple, and easy to do if you want to use the #NFL. Saw some good questions come in. Want as many as possible, so producer Aiden can pick the very best one. So, get your questions in, #Cowboys, or #NFL. Wrong show. #NFL, skip the line all together with that Super Chat. Let me just get organized here real quick and get set up because I want to make sure everything's tracking properly timing-wise with my stopwatch. So, last call. Get your questions in via #NFL, skip the line all together via Super Chat. Before we dive into today's mailbag, if you have questions, you can't watch live, you didn't get your question answered, whatever it is, hit me up on Twitter at What's Going Downey. I would much prefer that than the DMs I get, which are cryptocurrency crap and suspicious links to meet singles in your area. I'm tired of it. Let's get football talk in my DMs instead. At What Going Downey on Twitter. From Lore, what team should sign C.J. Gardner-Johnson? I will make notes. We are filming these mailbags, part of our live show on Tuesday. Is a chance that something ends up happening and he goes somewhere. The team that sticks out to me, the Eagles. Would anyone be surprised by that? Just go back to Philly. It works there. Gardner-Johnson is one of the best trash talkers in football, but also is the personified version of his intrusive thoughts one. He lacks control sometimes. And there were a lot, they're already come out. The issues in Houston were not good. Criticizing teammates, complaining about teammates' pay, big no-no. Not doing his assignments properly, just going rogue. Requested a trade. It was all kinds of bad. But Philadelphia, it works there. So I wouldn't be shocked if Philadelphia ends up being a potential fit there for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Marcos Mann, Chiefs and Vikings. Who do you think is NFC Player of the Week? There is one right answer. This will come out officially before this video goes out on demand. It's Isaiah Rodgers of the Vikings. If anyone votes for anything other than Rodgers, they don't know ball. That was a generational performance. The stuff he did against the Bengals had never been done before and will never be done again. It was wildly impressive from Rodgers, and he deserves it. It's a no-brainer. From Betty, how about a Russell Wilson trade? I wouldn't be shocked if Russ is on board with that, but I do genuinely wonder who's going to trade for him. The Bengals are a very much murky quarterback situation, but I don't think Russ is good. He let up the Cowboys. Okay, that defense is terrible. Come on, that's not a good example, frankly. I wonder if it's over for Russ. It didn't work in Denver. It didn't work in Pittsburgh. It didn't work in New York. That's 3 chances you've had. You don't normally get a 4th, especially at his age. Unless a big guy goes down, bigger name goes down, and there's some comfort level there, which I doubt. I don't know if Russ is going to be an option. So predictions: will the Giants trade Russell Wilson? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Will the Giants trade Russell Wilson? From Cobra Kai World, Bradley Chubb to the Niners for a 5th-round pick. Let me make sure I pull up the Bradley Chubb contract because that's kind of complicated there. I think this is a good name for the Niners. It might be a little bit more expensive for them to go get him with the way the contract is set up. Let me get it pulled up here because they just extended him in March, which is an issue overall for the Dolphins. But Nick Bosa's out, getting an edge, someone like Chubb, I think does make a ton of sense for San Francisco. He's really cheap right now for the Niners. They'd owe him essentially the vet minimum this year, and then the number skyrockets next year to over $20 million. That's fine. The issue is with the Dolphins side of it. They're not really saving anything. And they save $9 million over the next 2 seasons with a trade. That doesn't really move the needle. But if they're going to tear it down, that is the type of name they should consider shopping. Eric Simmons, will Mike McDaniel ever be a head coach again someday? I think he will. I wouldn't be surprised. You don't often see defensive minds get a second chance in the NFL. Like, those guys are normally not the options. But offensive minds do. I wonder if Mike McDaniel is going to be like the right fit. I think he's a little bit, I don't know, weird. Is that not to be mean, but like he is a unique guy. He's clearly not a disciplinarian. Someone's going to give him a shot as an offense coordinator, and if that works, someone will probably give him a shot as a head coach, but it's probably going to take a little bit of time on that front. Today's show is made possible by Omaha Steaks. You guys can get an extra $35 off at checkout by using promo code NFL Daily. That's on top of their ongoing 50% off site-wide. Who doesn't love steaks? I would argue there's nothing more American than a delicious, medium rare cooked steak. That is the way I prefer it. We recently had the newborn, had some Omaha steaks set aside. The family came over, I cooked them up. They were delicious. And I cooked them medium rare because that's the way to do it. Omaha Steaks offers unrivaled quality and variety, and every bite is backed by their 100% guarantee. Every steak is aged perfectly to maximize tenderness and hand-cut by master butchers in America's heartline. They're family-owned with over 100 years of experience in the meat industry. They have been America's original butcher since 1917. Get fired up for fall grilling with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Red Hot Sale events. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code NFL Daily at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an additional $35 off with promo code NFL Daily at checkout. See site for details. Link and said promo code NFL Daily will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. From the J Theory, Jungian, I don't know how to pronounce it. Should the Arizona Cardinals move on from Kyler Murray after the season ends? Not sure if the problem is Kyler or the OC or both at this point. I would not be surprised if we revisit the Kyler Murray conversation of like potentially moving on from him at the end of the season. I kind of threw it out there as like, hey, maybe this offseason didn't turn out that way. I just, outside of like a very small sample size a couple years ago, he hasn't been that great of a player. Like, he's been fine, but they didn't restructure his contract this year or last year. Like, they've left that door open to bailing on the contract if they want to. He's got a $53 million cap hit. They'd save, $18+ million worth of trade. I think it's doable. I think it's very doable that they move on. I don't know what that team ends up looking like, but if they don't make the playoffs and the offense continues to kind of struggle, I think it's very, very possible. Not right now, but next offseason, it will be a point of conversation. Cobra Kai World, Patriots should bench Ramondre Stevenson and start Travion Henderson. Yeah, I agree. I get that there's been some disappointment in New England with like the pass protection from Travion Henderson. You know what's worse than missing a pass pro block or two? Fumbling. That's what's worse. Henderson, the run game overall has been, I think, a little bit shaky. Henderson's got just 19 for 65, but the pass catching for all those guys have been pretty good. But, like, don't give Antonio Gibson snaps. Stop it. You spend a second on pick on Henderson. Let him cook. Let him cook. From Jenny, is a Trey Hendrickson trade back in the cards? I don't think today. Check in again in a month. If things really continue to fall apart in Cincinnati, if it looks like it did against the Vikings every week, I doubt it will. But if it keeps looking like that, the Bengals are probably better off cutting their losses and shopping him for a trade. Now, they'll probably get a third-round comp pick if they lose him in free agency. Probably. No guarantee, but probably. If that's the case, they're going to have a high asking price. Half a season rental, I don't know if the value works out quite right. And maybe the Bengals don't want to give up on the season. But so I'm not saying no, but but I'm saying it's a little bit dicey. Who is the next NFL player to get traded? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. A $2 super chat from Papichulo Sits. Thank you very much, my friend. Happy to have you here. He says, Devon Achane or Breece Hall to the Bears. I like this. I don't know if either guy gets moved. I think specifically for Miami, even though they are addicted to spending draft capital on running backs, which is horrible roster construction, he's still really good. I like Ollie Gordon a lot. Maybe Jaelan Wright makes more sense as a trade candidate because they have to keep some young talent. Breece Hall slowly ceding more touches to Braylon Allen, but I think Breece Hall has been better than Braylon Allen. But if the Jets keep losing games and they're at the trade deadline and they're 3, 4, 5 games under 500, I do think a trade starts to really make a lot of sense. Allen was better last week against the Bucs. Over the course of the season, what I saw early in the year, I'm inclined to go, I think Breece Hall still offers a little bit more, but the timing of his contract kind of makes it stand okay, maybe this is something that the Jets should consider doing. I think the Bears need more than DeAndre Swift. They might be more patient and focus on next year's draft. Jeremiah Love is a flawless fit, I think, in what Ben Johnson wants to do. Now, if you want to be a part of our mailbags, then you have to be subscribed. Otherwise, there's just no way to get in on the show because it's all done on our live videos. So hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Outdoor Creations. Why is the Eagles play calling so vanilla? It's an odd year, so I guess that means the Eagles OC's bad. You get future head coach, bad OC. Future head coach, bad OC. Look, honestly, this is Kevin Patullo's first time being a play caller. I think there are some growing pains he has to figure out. I think at times Kellen Moore and Shane Steichen, look what he's doing with Daniel Jones, really did a good job maximizing. Maybe it's just a lack of comfort, a lack of feel for what's going to be best for this version of the Eagles team. It's maybe some offensive line concerns with the injuries there. But I don't know. I think it's misuse of the personnel. F it, A.J. Brown down there somewhere isn't a bad play call, actually. You saw it down the stretch against the Rams. Do more of that second half offense. It's not perfect, but I think they should get better as the year goes along. If not, then we're right back in the Brian Johnson conversation. From Clee, come on, I'm not going to fall for this, guys. Come on, you guys can't get me. Is Brian Callahan going to get fired? Sure seems like it. Look, I don't know if you guys caught part of his press conference. He was asked if he had regrets about his play calling. He's like, no, not really. I noticed with my play calling. Okay, but you gave it up on Tuesday. I don't think it was his decision to give up play calling. That's how that reads to me. And that's just dead man walking signs right there. They don't start winning games. He's gone. Who do you think will be the first NFL head coach fired? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Eric Simmons, can the Giants turn their season around with Jaxson Dart? I honestly think it's going to be really challenging. And that's not a slight against Jaxson Dart. It's a testament to just this gauntlet the Giants face. Here's their schedule. Ready for this? Home against the Chargers. At the Saints. It's a must-win game. They have to win that one. Home against the Eagles. At the Broncos. At the Eagles. Home against the Niners. At the Bears. Home against the Packers. At the Lions to wrap up November. And then you still got Patriots, Commanders, Vikings, Raiders, Cowboys. That schedule sucks, man. They got screwed. They had the toughest schedule in football going into the season. I would love it if they could. I don't think it's going to be easy to get them to turn around their season. So are the Giants right to start Jaxson Dart? I do think the answer here is yes. I do think that they need to start Jaxson Dart. Not because I think he's going to be a superstar or elite or anything, but have to do something. Outside of the playing the crappy Niners offense, or the Cowboys defense, excuse me. It's not good. It's not. It's just bad. I think you had to do something. even if this is the desperation poll. That's just kind of how it goes. So I think it is the right move. I'm worried you're going to get into, even if you show some promise, you're firing Brian Dable, and like that's bad organizational management. I'm a bit worried about that. But are the Giants going to start Jaxson Dart? Y for yes, N for no. Giants announcing that move earlier today. ESPN recently dropped an article just before the most recent week of college football games that polled 25 NFL scouts, execs, etc. about the 2026 quarterback class. 7 different quarterbacks got votes as the current quarterback one. There were some interesting names on the list. Pete Thamel was kind of like, yeah, some of the, almost basically outright said, some of the execs haven't been watching. Why did you poll them? This was done before the most recent college football slate of games back on Saturday and done before the John Mateer injury news. We'll dive into all of that, but how many quarterbacks go in round 1 of the 2026 NFL draft? I think it looks a little bit shaky right now. Some of the guys hoping for breakout years haven't happened, at least as of yet. So get those predictions in for me in the comment section of today's show. This is the ordering of the 7 QBs who got votes as the number 1 QB. 8 votes for LaNorris Sellers, the very electric South Carolina quarterback. On kind of the opposite end of the pros and cons spectrum, Garrett Nussmeier of LSU had 7 votes. There was a big gap after these first 2 between Sellers and Nussmeier. Carson Beck had 3 votes. I was surprised too. John Mateer had 3 votes. Is worth mentioning, by the way. We filmed this on our Tuesday live show. News broke in the middle of it that John Mateer is going to have surgery for a broken bone in his right hand. He actually hurt it against Auburn, stayed in the game, and won. But about a month of recovery here coming up for John Mateer. He had 3 votes. Drew Allar, the Penn State quarterback, had a pair of votes. Again, we're going to go in-depth on all of these guys, by the way, so stay tuned for that. Sam Leavitt got a vote. I have thoughts on him. And, of course, Arch Manning got a vote. Is anyone surprised by that one? There are some quotes we'll get to from some of these alleged unnamed scouts, execs, etc. Those were the 7 names who got votes. I think there were 1 or 2 guys that should have got a vote, by the way. With that in mind, who do you think, right now, you got to pick somebody in a kind of shaky class here, who is the number 1 quarterback in the 2026 NFL draft? Let me know in the comment section of today's show who is the number 1 QB right now for the 2026 NFL draft. So LaNorris Sellers led the way in this ESPN poll of execs and scouts about who is the best quarterback prospect right now in college football, with upside being the biggest reason why. Here's what one alleged NFL scout told ESPN. He's got the most physical talent. His ability to scramble and make plays with his feet as a runner. He's instinctive and the ball comes out quick. Got a unique talent level. The kid, his story, how he got there. He's got a toughness to him. It intrigues people. Got the makeup, the intangibles, the ability to run. He has the most potential to be an impact player. I do agree with the NFL scout that spoke with ESPN. I think the potential is the highest for LaNorris Sellers. The size, the mobility, the arm strength, the flashes, the sheer strength. He breaks sacks like nobody else. The raw talent is there. It's just not developed yet. And that makes him a gamble. It makes him risky. It means we want to see how the rest of the season plays out. But the upside, compared to some of the other guys in this class, has certainly been seen more consistently, and it's a higher ceiling for Sellers than others in this group. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it is good to be right. Prize Picks is simple to play. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. You get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. They invented the flex play. You can still cash it if your lineup is not perfect. Here's one of the Prize Picks Sunday football slates. We got Aaron Rodgers more than 202.5 passing yards. Hawkinson more than 35.5 receiving yards. And your max discount this week, put it in your lineups or you don't know ball. Jalen Hurts, a half passing yard. Come on, it's a no-brainer. Go download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. So LSU's Garrett Nussmeier was narrowly behind Sellers and second in that ESPN poll. I think he's more developed right now. He does, to an extent, fit the stereotype of the coach's kid. He is the son of current Saints OC Doug Nussmeier. Here's what one NFL scout told ESPN on the Nuss bus. Instinctive and finds a way. He's got a great feel for the position and a good arm. I think he's more polished right now than LaNorris Sellers is. My player comp remains Tony Romo, and for the better and for the worse of it. There are moments it's like, yeah, it's really good stuff. That's quarterbacking right there. That's real NFL quarterbacking stuff. And there's moments of like, dude, just look with your eyes. How do you miss him in the flat? How do you miss the guy right in front of you? There's like 15% of the bad Romo that creeps into his game sometimes. But I think there is starting caliber ability with Garrett Nussmeier. But is that like top 15 starting quarterback ability, or is it top 10? And if it's not top 10, how early do you want to take that guy? Pick a QB for me. LS for LaNorris Sellers, GN for Garrett Nussmeier. You got to pick one of the top two. Who is it? LS or GN? I was very surprised to see Carson Beck getting some love in this ESPN article. He went from the possible number one pick last year, was widely mocked as it, because he was the safe, reliable quarterback, to he had to transfer. He's faring better this year with the Miami Hurricanes. NFL Scouts ESPN saying, let's see if Beck can continue his renaissance because there's enough ability there. Okay, I guess. I thought he played very well against Notre Dame. There was the one touchdown in the red zone that like maybe should have been picked, but whatever. The last two games haven't been as impressed. And I thought if Florida had any semblance of a competent offense, the Hurricanes probably were going to lose that game. I see too mmany mistakes by Beck. He doesn't have the same arm talent, doesn't have the same physical skill set like Sellers does. So if you're not, high TD to interception ratio, he's 1-to-1 over his past two games. That's just not going to work. Are you buying Carson Beck stock right now? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. We're going to go rapid fire through a couple more of the names that were on this list. John Mateer, he is the most fun college quarterback to watch. Electric, just making plays with his legs, chaos stuff, good chaos stuff, by the way. Did suffer a hand injury, gonna miss about a month. That is worth mentioning. Maybe that means he ends up going back to school. I think he's got one more year of eligibility / his college football, so everyone has 7 years somehow now. But he's a blast to watch, and it does think he's going to miss time with an injury. Drew Allar, look, the next game against Oregon is going to have massive impact on his draft stock. I want to see him do well against the best competition. I haven't really seen that. This is a great chance against the Oregon Ducks. My issue with Allar is it's the same issues. It's the same easy stuff that he misses. And if that doesn't get better this year, I don't think it's ever going to get better. The size, even the mobility, the arm strength, it's all there. But you can't be the developmental upside guy after being in college this long. Like, that kind of stops. At some point, it's just like, maybe you are who you are. Honestly shocked to see Sam Leavitt on here. We watched the Mississippi State game, right? He was way better against Baylor. But, he was terrible against the Bulldogs. He is too much of the bad material of just run around, make plays, and try to make chaos happen, and it's too chaotic. You do have to be able to win within structure, and I think Leavitt lacks that at some times. Fun college quarterback, but I'm not there yet on him as an NFL quarterback. Arch Manning was on here, and I'll be honest, I don't get it. I think Arch going back to school is the likely, but the obvious outcome after a pretty poor start to his season. I don't know what's wrong with Arch. This is not the same guy that we saw last year. Last year's guy had mechanics that looked good. This year's Arch is not setting his feet, throwing sidearm, missing easy throws, looking uncomfortable. Not sure if there's an injury or if he just has lost his mechanics, but something's up with Arch. Maybe it's just he's not comfortable under the pressure he faced against the OSU, and it's kind of leaked into his other games. He was also terrible against UTEP. So I don't know what's wrong with Arch, but right now, back to school makes the most sense for me. This is, though, what one NFL scout said. He's very talented. Top to bottom arm talent, understanding the pocket, seeing the field, feeling the field. You see his arm strength. Just needs to get everything under control and for the game to slow down. Look, everything Texas and Arch Manning want are still in front of them. Got to start winning games against better competition. The last 3 games have been a bunch of nobodies. Like the touchdown to turnover ratio looks pretty good, but I expect 70% completion rate for Arch outside of the OSU game. That didn't happen. I think going back to school is probably needed here. For more NFL news, rumors, mock draft, prospect talk, and more, hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. I want to mention 2 other quarterbacks who I think are worthy of putting in this conversation, at least for now, one of whom we might very well drop after this upcoming week. But I want to begin with Fernando Mendoza. The competition was not good until they shellacked Illinois in wild fashion. Fernando Mendoza, through 4 games, is completing almost 77% of his passes with 16 touchdowns and 0 picks. Total TDs. That's absurd. And I get he wasn't playing good competition to begin the year. It was kind of shaky in week 1. He has been lights out the last 3 weeks. This was very much the draft nerds fan quarterback going into the season. A lot more challenging competition to come for Indiana. There is the possibility that we look back on the season and go, oh, Illinois actually wasn't good. They did kind of struggle against Old Dominion, but the next couple of weeks for the Hoosiers, ready for this? Iowa, Oregon, back-to-back games. We'll see how good Iowa ends up being, but it's a road game this coming weekend. Then Oregon, that's a big one, and then Penn State down the stretch too. Let's see what Fernando Mendoza can do, because he does a lot of the high quarterback stuff pretty darn well. Now, Dante Moore might not go pro. Benefit from the extra year of eligibilities, years that he has, I should say. Get that Phil Knight NIL money. Haven't seen him against actual competition yet. Oregon State and Oklahoma State are bad. I mean, shoot, the Cowboys just fired their coach in Mike Gundy already. But he's been really good out there. A lot better than he was at UCLA. I think a much better supporting cast helps that out significantly. I am curious how he looks against Penn State. That's a big game for both teams, both quarterbacks, so many players. But I think Dante Moore, through 4 games, has been really intriguing and kind of living up to some of that 5-star hype that accompanied him to UCLA. The pin poll today: are the Giants right to start Jaxson Dart? Y for yes, N for no. 85% voting yes. I think that is the right move as well, folks. We are live every week with all the latest on the NFL. Appreciate every single one of you who tuned in for today's show. Special shout-outs to our Super Chatters, Papachulo Sits, and Outdoor Creations. Appreciate you guys so much. Do not miss out. Hit that sub button. We'll have more videos all week long. Red Zone back at you again on Sunday as well.